The ceramic mug exploded against the faded linoleum floor of Benny's diner like a small grenade. Scalding coffee splashed across Margaret Thompson's thin floral dress and pooled in her lap. She sucked in a sharp breath, her knuckles widening on the arms of her wheelchair as crude laughter ricocheted off the walls. "Oops," sneered Ricky Valdez, the leader of the pack. 24, covered in gang tattoos, heavy gold chains swinging as he loomed over her. "Didn't see you there, wheelchair grandma. This place got a no-cripple section or what?" His three friends, hard-eyed young men in oversized hoodies, blocked the narrow aisle between booths, smirking. One kicked the wheel of Margaret's chair, spinning her halfway around. The metal scraped loudly. Margaret, 68, with silver hair pulled into a neat bun and eyes that had seen too much loss, lifted her chin. "Please," she said, voice steady but quiet. "I only came for my usual slice of blueberry pie. I won't be any trouble." "Too late for that," Ricky laughed. He leaned down, breath smelling of cigarettes and cheap beer. "You're blocking the whole damn walkway. Maybe you should have stayed in your little nursing home where old ladies belong." The other customers, truck drivers, retired locals, a young mother with her toddler, averted their eyes. No one spoke up. Fear had thickened the air like smoke. Margaret's hands trembled slightly as she tried to wipe the coffee from her dress with a napkin. A purple bruise peeked from under her sleeve, a souvenir from last week's encounter with the same group outside the grocery store. She had moved to this quiet corner of upstate New York after losing her only son, seeking peace. Instead, she found growing cruelty in a town that once felt safe. The bell above the door chimed softly. 8 men entered. They didn't storm in. They simply walked, but their presence shifted the atmosphere instantly. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the alert posture of men who had learned to read rooms in war zones far from home. Short haircuts, civilian clothes, jeans, flannel shirts, one wearing a faded Navy SEAL hoodie, but their eyes scanned every corner with practiced precision. The tallest, Marcus Riley, 47, with salt and pepper hair and a faint scar cutting through his left eyebrow, stopped just inside. His gaze locked on Margaret and the 4 young men surrounding her. Something hardened in his expression. Behind him stood his brothers in arms, Diego Morales, the team medic, Harlan Brooks, the gentle giant from Georgia, Knox Whitaker, quiet and intense, Elias Chen, calm and precise, Thomas Riley, no relation, who moved with a prosthetic leg, Jonah Hayes, the storyteller, and young Caleb Ruiz, the newest addition. For a moment, the diner was silent except for the hiss of the coffee machine. "You all right, ma'am?" Marcus asked, his deep voice carrying calm authority. Ricky turned, sneering. "Mind your own business, soldier boys. This ain't your fight." Marcus didn't raise his voice. "It is now." What unfolded wasn't the chaotic brawl the gang expected. It was something far more powerful. Diego moved first, kneeling smoothly beside Margaret's wheelchair. "Ma'am, with your permission." Without waiting for protest, he gently lifted the broken mug shards, then shrugged off his hoodie and draped it carefully over her lap to hide the coffee stain. His hands were steady, the same hands that had tied tourniquets under fire and comforted dying brothers. Margaret looked at him, eyes glistening. "You really don't have to do this, young man." "We do," Diego replied softly. "It's the least we can do." Harlan stepped forward, his southern drawl warm yet firm. "Boys, y'all picked the wrong day and the wrong lady. We've spent 2 decades protecting folks who couldn't protect themselves. Seeing this, it don't sit right." Thomas, balancing effortlessly on his prosthetic, added, "I lost my leg in Kandahar. Took me years to stand tall again. But standing up for what's right. That part came easier once I remembered who I was fighting for." Ricky and his friends shifted uneasily. The easy target had suddenly become surrounded by men who radiated quiet, unshakable strength. Then came the moment that changed everything. Marcus reached into his back pocket and pulled out a worn leather wallet. From it, he extracted an old, creased photograph. He crouched down to Margaret's level and handed it to her. Her breath caught. The photo showed a younger Margaret, smiling brightly beside a handsome young sailor in uniform. Her son, Daniel. "I knew Danny," Marcus said, voice thick with emotion. "He was our corpsman on 2 deployments. Best man I ever served with. He talked about you constantly, how you wrote letters not just to him, but to every guy in the platoon who didn't get mail. How you sent homemade cookies and socks and those terrible jokes that somehow made the desert feel less lonely." Margaret's hand flew to her mouth as tears spilled down her wrinkled cheeks. For years after Daniel's death in a roadside ambush 12 years ago, she had wondered if her small acts had meant anything. If her letters had been read or simply discarded. "He remembered me," she whispered. "Every single night," Marcus replied. "When the nights got long and the fighting got ugly, Danny would pull out your letters and read them aloud. One time, after we lost 3 guys, he read your note about finding light in the darkness. Half the platoon was crying, but it kept us going. You were part of us, even from thousands of miles away." The diner had fallen into complete silence. The cook had stepped out from the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron. Regulars who had looked away earlier now watched with shame and fascination. Jonah, with his easy smile, pulled up a chair. "Danny told us you raised him alone after his dad passed. Worked 2 jobs so he could join the Navy and chase his dreams. He said you were the strongest person he knew." Caleb, the youngest at 28, knelt on the other side. "I joined later, but I still got your letters after Danny was gone. The Foundation forwarded them. Your words about never giving up, they saved me on my worst days." Ricky tried one last weak laugh. "This some kind of made-up sob story?" Knox, who had barely spoken, fixed him with a piercing stare. "No. This is real. And you're done here. Walk out now, and don't come back. Or stay and learn what happens when men who've carried their brothers home decide to protect someone's mother." The 4 gang members left quickly, heads down, the bell jingling their hasty exit. No fists were thrown. No dramatic fight. Just the quiet power of presence and truth. What followed was deeper healing. The 8 SEALs didn't leave. They stayed for hours. They bought lunch for the entire diner, burgers, fries, fresh coffee, and multiple slices of blueberry pie for Margaret. They listened as she shared stories of Daniel as a boy, how he was scared of thunderstorms but would still check under her bed for monsters, how he joined the Navy to make the world safer for moms like mine. In return, they shared their memories. Elias described how Daniel once ran through heavy fire to save a wounded Marine, dragging him back while cracking jokes to keep him conscious. Harlan recalled the care packages that arrived smelling of home. Thomas spoke of the prosthetic fitting process and how Daniel's encouragement letters helped him push through physical therapy. As the afternoon sun painted golden patterns across the tables, Margaret laughed, a real, warm sound, for the first time in years. The weight she had carried alone began to lift. Diego checked her wheelchair thoroughly and fixed a loose wheel with tools from his truck. "Good as new, ma'am." By evening, word had spread through the small town. More veterans and locals arrived. An elderly man in a Vietnam-era cap shook each SEAL's hand, tears in his eyes. The young mother from earlier apologized to Margaret and offered to help with groceries from now on. Marcus wheeled Margaret out to the parking lot himself when her adapted van arrived. The others followed respectfully. "Mrs. Thompson," he said, crouching again so their eyes met, "we came back to this town for the memorial dedication tomorrow. But finding you, this was Danny's real gift. We've got your 6 now. Not just today. Always." Margaret reached out, touching the scar on his face with motherly tenderness. "You boys have already given so much. Coming home safe was all I prayed for after losing him. Thank you for being the light he always talked about." As the van door closed, the group began humming an old hymn Daniel used to love. Their voices were rough, imperfect, but filled with genuine heart. Margaret smiled through happy tears. 3 months later. The story spread far beyond the diner. Local newspapers ran it not as a tale of bullying and confrontation, but as one of redemption and humanity. Ricky Valdez, it turned out, had lost his own father young and fallen into the wrong crowd. He showed up at the Veterans Memorial with flowers and a heartfelt apology to Margaret in front of the whole community. He now volunteers twice a week at the local VA center, helping veterans with transportation and errands. The 8 SEALs established the Daniel Thompson Memorial Foundation. It provides support for disabled veterans, their families, and elderly community members facing hardship. Margaret serves as honorary chairwoman, her wisdom and letters now reaching a new generation. Every Thursday afternoon, the corner booth at Benny's Diner is reserved. The 9 of them, Margaret and her 8 sons, gather there. They share pie, stories, and laughter. The community has changed too. Acts of kindness have multiplied. People hold doors, offer rides, and check on neighbors. On quiet evenings, when the light hits the framed photo of Daniel on the diner wall just right, it almost feels like he's sitting there with them, smiling at his mom and the brothers who found her. Because in the end, courage isn't always about charging into battle. Sometimes it's about walking into an ordinary diner, refusing to look away, and choosing compassion over convenience. 8 Navy SEALs didn't just stop a bullying incident that day. They reminded everyone what it truly means to be human, to protect the vulnerable, honor the fallen, and lift each other up with the simple power of presence and love. And in a world that often feels divided and cold, that reminder is the greatest victory of all.